Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Salu Hussein Eje from Nasarawa South. My first question to Mr. Nominee is that you are a leader, a lawyer, a politician, and you aspired to be the governor of your state at one time in CPC in 2011. Unfortunately, you lost. To lose an election, there are factors. These factors could be personal, they could be institutional, and then they could be electoral, by your ideas. I have interest in one of these factors, institutional. Do you think that you lost because there were loopholes exploited by other people or some persons that made you lose election? And if there are, what will be your remedy to this Senate and Nigerians as your recommendation? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Naya Baribe. I represent Abia South. Mr. Nominee, going through your CV, I applaud where you said that you are consistent and that you have always believed in the certain causes and that you follow them to the end. As you also speak in here, you also told us that you are very, very appreciative of the diverse interests that are represented in this chamber. Now, Mr. Nominee, I just have a simple question for you. Were you ever indicted by a panel for religious intolerance in Oyo State, where there was disturbances, and when the state set up a committee, they found you guilty? If that is so, can you enlighten this chamber and the rest of Nigeria why somebody who has been indicted for religious intolerance will be made a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where you will serve everybody? Thank you.
Senator Kurfi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my colleagues. My name is Senator Umar Kurfi from Kaduna Central. My question to the nominee is this. We are currently experiencing delay in criminal charges, unnecessary technicalities, and absolute existing laws combined with undermined efficient administration of criminal justice. As a barrister and solicitor of Supreme Court, what reform will you initiate to this challenge? This is my question.
Senator Ayau.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Samuel Nemeka Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Mr. Ministerial Nominee, I just have one simple question for you. In case, after screening, I am confirmed by this Senate as the Minister for the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and you are given the responsibility to man or superintend over the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and National Orientation. What policies will you formulate that will galvanize this sector as a foreign exchange earner tool for cultural diplomacy, national development, and most especially insulating the entertainment industry from piracy and intellectual property theft. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Shittu, you take this question.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. The first question by the senator from Nasarawa South. I'm sorry I didn't get your name properly. It's about losing election, why I lost election. It is obvious that in year 2011, in the whole of Southwest, or most of Southwest, the Action Congress of Nigeria was the party to beat. So if you were the best of candidates, and if you had all the money, the people at that time in the Southwest had made up their mind that seeing the Action Congress of Nigeria as a successor party to the Unity Party of Nigeria then, that was the party they wanted. I am happy to say that even though our party then, CPC, was formed less than a year to that election, I still scored 15,000 votes. With due respect to those who were in EMPP. EMPP was a senior party in the country at that time. The AMPP at that time scored 2,000 votes to my own 15,000. And I was the one, my personality was the one which transformed our party to become the third most popular party in the state at that time. I am happy and I'm proud with all due humility that my failure at that time was not about my personality. It was about the fixtures, the vision and the thinking of our people in the Southwest who felt that the Action Congress of Nigeria was the party which represented their interests. And I want to remark that throughout all the 16 states of the southern Nigeria, I scored the highest votes among CPC governors in the whole of South. There was no state in the south of Nigeria which didn't have a CPC governorship candidate, but I led them all. And that is to show that my personality and my popularity played a role, in the amount of scope. You can imagine the difference between a new party scoring 15,000 and a much older party scoring 2,000 in that election. So I hope that I have answered that question. Our distinguished Senator Adebayo talked of religious indictments. I say with all sense of responsibility that I have never been indicted by any panel of inquiry. I recently became aware of a gazette, and I have copies of that gazette. I don't know whether Mr. President will allow me to make reference to it. What happened? In that year 2000, I was the secretary of the National Committee on Hajj. And throughout the period that the crisis occurred, I was away in Saudi Arabia on national assignment. So I was not even in the country when the crisis occurred. And if you look through the Gazette, I was not invited. And in law, if you are not invited, if there are allegations against you and you are not invited, whatever finding which comes out goes to no issue. Number two, in that Gazette, I was not even alleged of anything. At the tail end of it, perhaps for political reasons, because I was in PDP then, somebody smuggled, something into it to say that the governor should advise me. Advice, not indictment. The list of those indicted is in the Gazette. I have copies of it here. He said that I should be advised not to be publishing publications which are capable of bringing about whatever crisis. There is no nexus between any of my books. I have written 7 standard books and other pamphlets on Islam because I believe in morality, because I believe that life must be about service to God. And a lot of people may be religious, but they are not godly. So I describe Nigeria as a country of religiosity without godliness.
Because on Fridays and Sundays, you find everybody, being religious. They either go to church or mosque, and yet godliness is not reflected in our, behaviors. So I have always had this abiding faith in the fact that Nigerians must be moralized. Nigerians must move more to God instead of the show of mere religiosity. So I was never invited, and I was never alleged. There is no allegation, and there was also no indictment. Because if you talk of an advice cannot be an indictment. I'm speaking here as a lawyer, and I know that even non-lawyers know that there's a difference between indictment and advice. What is more important, sir? After that gazette, where I was sought to be advised, the government brought out another gazette. I have a copy of it also here, saying that they had forgiven all those who had been indicted. And so the case against them was truncated. The case was, stopped by the government, which brought out the thing. So I want to assure distinguished senators that I remain a bridge builder, I remain a social mixer. My secretary in my chambers for the past 7 years is the wife of a pastor. That woman who is my secretary is the one who types and processes all my correspondences, whether private or public. As a matter of fact, she's an SU. She doesn't use earrings, and she enjoys very comfortable working relationship with me. So I am not an extremist, I'm not a religious fanatic, but I believe in God, and I believe that as much as possible, everybody must work towards a saner and more godly society. There's the question from Senator Kurfi about delay in justice administration. I hope I've gotten him well. I'm happy to say that the government has recently promulgated a criminal administration act, which is aimed at solving all the problems about delayed prosecutions and so on and so forth. And I believe that if, for instance, I happen to be Attorney General, all that I need to do is to pursue the strict execution of the contents of that new act, which happily was passed by this distinguished Senate. The last point is about culture and tourism. It talks of what I would likely want to do. Happily enough, I used to be the Honorable Commissioner for Home Affairs, Information and Culture. And so going to a culture ministry would not be going to a strange land for me. I have done it before. By the grace of God, since culture is part and parcel of our national life and our private life, I will do the utmost to ensure that Nigeria, reaps the best out of, our culture, particularly in promoting culture as an economic, agenda, and promoting tourism also as an economic agenda for the betterment of our country.